Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome to your fourth tutorial on Unity. In this tutorial we're gonna cover terrain, right? So let me just first give you a short description of what terrain is. In video games, terrain is basically when you want to simulate like an outside environment or some kind of hills or flatland or plains or any sort of outside environment, mountains, anything you can think of. Basically, you can do with the terrain. It's terrain basically is a plane that it has a certain script on it in Unity. It's a game object that has a plane on it that has a certain script that just shifts the plane, just modifies the plane to make hills in it and such. So I'll show you what I mean exactly if you didn't understand my explanation. So first, a terrain is no regular game object. Well, it is a game object, just like any other, but you don't just create it from the game objects menu. You go right here to the terrain toolbar button, click create terrain. Now once you click that, you see you get an enormous, let me just zoom out a whole lot. You get simply an enormous plane, right? And how do you know it's a plane? Well, the thing about planes is if you look at them from one side, they're visible, and from the other side, they're not. See? Invisible, visible. Just like that, right? So that's planes. Right? So what you get here is a flat nothingness, right? And this is really looking at the terrain. There, put a bit up. Let's rotate it like that. Yeah, that's all right. Anyways, so yeah, you just get a flat plane. Now, what the hell am I gonna do with this plane? Well, you see, let's look at the components. You see, you have a transform here, of course, because it's a game object. Then you have a terrain script and a terrain collider. Now, terrain collider base is probably a terrain collider, which we can't mess with because all it does is just blocks collisions, right? But a terrain script, that's actually the interesting part. So first, I want to import some custom assets that Unity gives you with your Indie license or version of Unity. So go to assets to import a package. Go to assets, import package, and you have all these packages here. I want you to click on the terrain assets. So yeah, click import. Now this should take like a couple of seconds. And there. Now whenever you import a package that Unity gives you, even if you download it from their site or you import it through these, it will always put it in the standard assets folder. Right? So you don't have to put all your stuff in the standard assets folder. You can put in your own, but you can also put it here. It's just what Unity gives you. Anyway, if you open this folder, you'll see terrain assets, which is the package that we imported. And then you see here grass, texture, and ambient occlusion. We won't touch ambient occlusion today, but we are going to touch textures and grass, right? So first of all, before we paint the terrain with the ground and stuff, we want to make hills, alright? We want to shape it, sculpt it, if you will. So if you look down here, you get like a little toolbar, and you click on this icon. This is the raise and lower terrain. Now you pick your brush. I don't know why my mouse is really out of whack. But anyways, you pick your brush. If you want this one or whatever. And then you set the size, how big the brush is. Set that, see it's a bigger brush. Right? Yeah, that's a better view. You set the size, and you set the shape. You set the opacity, which is the strength of it. You can't see it from up here, the opacity, but you will see it in a second. And then you just click on wherever you want to raise. And then it raises it. See? It's hard to see from up there, but you know what? What I'm going to do before I start painting, I'm going to put a light, right? Because currently the scene is not lit. It doesn't have any lights. So if you want to not have a light that's that has a really big range, So instead of putting a light that has a really big range, you can put an infinite light, and that is called a directional light in Unity. Where's our directional light? It's way down there. Right, anyway, so directional light basically casts an infinite ray of light where you point it. And let me show you how that works. Right, so say I position it way up here in the corner of the terrain. And then I rotate it. So let's open this light component, and you can see its direction. So I can rotate it to where I want it to point, and if you see down here, you can see it actually changes the light direction, or I can even point it up and down. And it has intensity, but it doesn't have range. I'll show you how to use it in another tutorial. It has a lot of cool stuff, the light component in Unity, but for now, just use it for this. Anyway, let's continue painting our terrain. Right, I need a way bigger opacity. There we go. Alright, so I'm just making like hills over here. Here we are. And now, say I accidentally put a hill there, and I don't want there to be a hill. I simply hold Shift key and then click, and see, it undoes what you did. So yeah, you can go ahead and paint your terrain now, or you can pause the video and paint it, or you can just continue listening because I'm going to explain another thing. Right, so now you see we got this really large terrain, but if we zoom at it, we see it's not really that smooth. See if we look really closely though. Anyway, we're not looking close enough, but you can, if you're actually playing the game, you'll see that it's really not that smooth. So to smooth out the terrain, you go to the next tool right here, which is called Smooth Height. You set the opacity to how much you want to smooth it, and the brush size, just like before. And what this does is it smooths the terrain completely. Well, not completely, according to the opacity. But the way it smooths it is it makes less difference between the height. So say I got a really big brush, and hold on, let me just paint two hills right here. Right, so I have this hill and this low ground. So if I take this really big brush and I put half on this hill, half on the ground, then it will lower the hill, because to smooth things, it makes less difference between the height. So currently the difference in the height here is like, I don't know, 10 and 0. Then it will make less difference. It will raise this and lower this. So that's how the smooth brush works. So just keep that in mind so you don't actually accidentally destroy your terrain. Then after you've done that, we can come into the painting. I'm not actually going to smooth my entire terrain because I got more things to cover today. But after that, you go to the paintbrush icon. You click on that, and here you need to first, before you can actually paint the texture, you need to add a texture. So the first texture you add, it will put it over across the entire terrain, and then the second texture is the one you can paint. So I'm just gonna go edit textures to add a texture. Click add texture right here, and see, have here a couple of fields: tile size X, tile size Y, offset. I'm not gonna touch these numbers. I'm just gonna look right here. This splat is 2D texture variable, and this is what we actually imported terrain assets for. We want to set the texture right here, so we're gonna go into terrain textures. Then we're gonna pick a texture that's gonna be our base ground. I'm gonna go with good dirt. Just drag it and drop it right here. Click add, and see it paints, because it's the first texture we added. It paints the entire terrain in this texture. Now you won't see details from up here. You just see the color. So what I want to do is actually show you how to resize the terrain. Okay, because if you notice, you can't just resize it like this. No. Let me just reset that. You can't do that. So you got to go to terrain, set resolution, and bam, you see the terrain width and terrain height. Terrain height isn't really it's just the limit of how high you can go with the terrain height is how high you can make your hills, right? So I'm not gonna mess with that. What I am gonna mess with is the length and the width, which is basically the dimensions of it. So instead of 2000, I'm gonna put it at 200 set resolution there. And our terrain is much smaller now, but it kind of squishes everything in. So I'm gonna just lower these hills a bit, so you can even see the detail now. Right, shift and click. There, shift click. Then I'm gonna smooth everything out. Whoops. Yeah, that's a brush. Let's pull it to max opacity. Let's just lower this a bit here. And smooth. What the? I did it again. I'm getting confused with my buttons here. Anyway, finally, let's smooth it out. Should really use this like slowly like this, otherwise it won't be very effective. See if I go over it a couple times, moving the mouse a little, it gets more effective. Anyways, you get it. We get the terrain. So now, let's start painting. I want to paint at the top of each hill here. I want to paint a cliff, right? So I'll add the cliff texture, add texture, cliff, and there we go. And now if I just zoom in, make my brush smaller because I don't want to paint over the entire thing. Yeah, like that. Even smaller actually. Lower the opacity a bit, and I'll just click. You see, we can paint. I think. Oh, wait, forgot. You need to select the texture you want to paint right here. So select that, and then you can paint beautifully. And there you go. Now you can paint. Now you can add even more textures. I want to add a grass for the low ground, so I'm going to add grass texture. I'm going to select it down here. And then I'm just going to paint it wherever I want to have grass. Let's make this big, low opacity. Zero opacity. There, so this is a really ugly looking terrain, but I want to move on, right? So now next thing I want to talk to you about is trees. Trees in the terrain is, first of all, a tree is basically a model that Unity gives you of a tree. There's a whole tree editor component in Unity, but I'll cover that in another tutorial. For now, let's just use a default tree that comes with Unity. It's a palm tree, right? And you just have this model right here of a palm tree. You can explore it here. And so to add trees, you do edit trees, add tree, and then don't touch the blend factor. I don't know what it does. And then you just drag and drop the model right on there. Click add, and bam, you have a tree. And then you have all sorts of parameters you can mess around here with the tree placer. Have brush size, of course. You have tree density, which is how much trees it puts per click. Because you know each click you put, it puts a random amount of trees in random spots around in the brush. Tree height, of course, you know what it is. Tree width, I want to make it big, and that's how you do. You just click and you paint, and you shift click to unpaint. Right? So there we go. That's pretty much trees. I'm not gonna cover the whole tree creator component feature in Unity, but I am gonna move on to details. Now details, it can be many things, such as grass, or I don't know, like bees, or anything you have in the environment that is pretty, it's dynamic but it's static. It stays in one place but it moves like where it stays. So for instance, let's add grass, right? Because that's what Unity gives us, right? So if you open the grass here, you see you got two textures, right? These are not details, these are textures, just so you know. And now let's add them. So we'll do edit details just like we did anything. And then don't click add detail mesh, because detail mesh is things like bees and whatnot, and whatever you add, or alien swarm, or we just want to add grass texture because we don't have all the assets right here. So just pick any grass texture you like and drag it, drop it on here. You can mess with these parameters if you like. I won't touch them right now because it's a waste of time. And there you go. And just like you painted here, you can paint the detail. Let me just set the opacity a bit bigger. Target strength, brush size, and there. Now I am painting it, but I can't see it. That's because details, there's a lot of them, so they take a lot of memory to render. So what Unity does is it does a minimum render distance. So the camera has to come within a certain distance of the detail to actually see it. And so if I zoom here, I should see it. Why am I not seeing it? Right. Hold on one second. Alright, my Unity just got stuck again and it decides not to render detail anymore. So I guess I can't demonstrate this tutorial how detail looks, but I'll keep explaining because there's some interesting stuff here. Anyways, after you place your detail, now say you're aiming your game for like better computers, for computers that you know are gonna handle a lot of detail, then you can control the render distance of the detail right here on this what looks like settings icon. Get right here, tree and detail objects. You get detail distance, so you can play with that. Alright. Ah, there we go. I got it to display. Well, that's a lot of detail. Anyways, so that's the detail. That's it for detail distance. Let me just erase some of this detail here. It's really lagging up my computer. Ah, much better. Whoa. Yeah, I had a lot of. There we go. Erase all of that. Anyway, so that's what the detail distance does. Detail density. You can render less detail than you want, or you can render all of it, which is 1. Tree distance. You can also play with that. If you know trees are lagging up your computer, you can play with the distance of there. Billboard start, I didn't really know what that is. Max trees is the maximum amount of trees you can have. And now, if you play the game, actually, and you look at the grass, let me just get my camera closer. Whoa. Oh, that's right, it's like that. Alright, so we get really close to the ground. Now play it. Do I have any grass there? No, I don't have any grass there. So let me just play some detail there so you can demonstrate. There we go. Wow, that's high opacity. Let me just erase that. And then put a little. Now if I play it, you can see the grass moves, according to wind. So right here, you can play with the wing settings right here. You can make it higher speed, so you see the grass moving faster. You can make it, bigger winds. So yeah, that's kind of the wind settings. And that's it for the terrains. Next time I might cover the terrain toolkit. I might not. We'll see. But that's all for today. Remember to subscribe to stay updated and to leave comments on my forum to get all the information you need, to ask questions. So, bye-bye.